And good afternoon. This is the dialogue. This is Dialogue with Dozy. You got one half of the tandem. As you saw, tonight is KV's birthday. I don't know. We might give him tonight off. We may give him portions of the night. We'll kind of wait and see. We got some dynamite guests. We got a dynamite topic tonight. It's the 2021 year in review. Shout out to my brother, Kim Varner. You're going to kiss your brother. That's my brother, man. Certainly. Good afternoon, Fern. We love you. It's going to go good, baby. Tonight. Co-hosting, sitting in the co-pilot seat with me is my dear cousin. She's been here many times before. That's Sister Janis Hazel. Jan, how do you do?
Absolutely fantastic. So wonderful to be with you tonight.
Well, it's fantastic that you are here. This makes it fantastic for us all. And also with us tonight, listen, he and I work kind of different eras, but we both worked in Central Florida law enforcement. My brother, Gary Wandelt, he's a brother in Christ. He's a good brother. We might come kind of on different sides of the political wing, but at the end, we're all a part of the same bird. So my brother, Gary Wandelt, agreed to be with us tonight. Gary, how you doing, brother?
Great. Yourself. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. Before we get into the show tonight, let me just ask everybody, how was the Christmas holiday?
Janis?
I think I was frozen there for a second. Christmas is a wonderful time of year, very different when your parents aren't here with you anymore. But I had a wonderful fellowship with cousin and my 95-year-old aunt who's here in Detroit. So it was absolutely fantastic.
Oh, man. How about you, Gary?
Yeah, we have family down here. None of the kids left far from the nest. And basically, we had a wonderful church service. We had an Eve Christmas service at my one Pastor Bobby's church, Riverbend. It was the eve before Christmas Eve. It was an outdoor service. It was nice. And then we had the Christmas Eve service at my church, South Daytona Christian. And we had breakfast with my family Christmas Day and Christmas Eve with my son who was here at the house. So it was awesome.
Fantastic. Hey, Fern, we got an idea how you enjoyed Christmas up there in that beautiful setting, that beautiful rustic Georgia setting that you're in. And Fern, don't forget you live in Jacksonville, okay? Duval, enjoy yourself while you're there, but we certainly be glad to see you. When you're back, I'll be up there to enjoy hanging out with you. Hey, background tells what the show's about tonight. It is the year in review, 2021. To give you some perspective, 2020 was a year that most of us would love to forget. It was the year that we saw, first it started out with Cosby's death last year, and then with all of the racial unrest, and we had the George Floyd, we had police controversial killings, but the biggest thing was the coronavirus, and coronavirus stayed with us over into 2021. And you know what? Let's just get right into it. Let's get right into the show. So now these are the rules of the game. This show only works if you guys chime in, that our viewers are watching. You have to chime in and talk about it. Give our guests, our hosts, opportunities to talk about what has transpired this past year. We don't have time to go into a dialogue about it. We'll just kind of make a comment or two. And like I said, we're going to get divergent opinions about some of the topics we're discussing. We have quite a few, so we're going to get right into them, okay? And right now, let me just tell you this. Let me just say this to you. The first topic that we're going to be discussing, and that we're just going right down the chronological year of 2021. The first thing that happened was that Georgia, yes, red state Georgia, elected its first African-American U.S. Senator, and a part of Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock, and who's Martin Luther King's pastor. Wow, I have a dream that one day we'll live in a nation will not be judged by the color of our skins, by the content of our character. Wow, how about that? This coming in on the pastor of his church. that Dr. King and his father pastored, and the first Jewish person from the state of Georgia, in the person of Senator John Ossoff, were elected to the Georgia U.S. Senate. The Senate, there were 2 U.S. senators from Georgia. They were actually elected on January the 5th. January 6th, it was ratified and made official. What's the comments on that, guys? What did you think about that, Gary?
I was frankly, I mean, I watched it as best as I could, being not a Georgian, but I was surprised it went that way, but that's the way the people voted. And I think they have as much voting rights as we do in Florida. So, just like a jury trial, I mean, lo and behold, whatever the jury comes up with is what the people want. So we're just, it tied everything up, that's for sure. And I think it's kind of like made things a little bit more complicated in the Senate right now with a 50-50 split. But so far, we'll see how it goes for the rest of the year.
Well, okay, Janis is back with us. Janis, do you want to come in on the Georgia, briefly on the Georgia election of Senator Ralph Warnock and Senator Reverend Dr. Ralph Warnock and John Ossoff in the state of Georgia, African American and the Jewish American in the state of Georgia, elected to the U.S. Senate. I like your comments, Gary. I hope and pray that can be felt around the country and we can kind of get through some of this voter oppression stuff. Jan, what's your take on what happened in Georgia on January 5th of 2021?
Well, I think it's an absolute travesty that those two were elected in the last cycle in 2020 rather. It's absolutely absurd that this country's history, we are just now electing an African American to the Georgia U.S. Senate and a Jewish individual. That's the travesty. I'm very elated that people from those various perspectives were elected, but the United States really is still reckoning with its institutionalized racism and its unfortunate view that others, meaning anyone outside of white Anglo-Saxon males, should be in those spaces. So we still have a long ways to go. A very, very qualified individual in Georgia also, we're just coming off of the heels of Stacey Abrams not being elected and having to, fight for a couple of years to get voters into the discussion. And she says she's going to run again. So I'm hopeful that we will see Stacey Abrams in the gubernatorial seat in the next election cycle. But, I think it is something to celebrate that an African American and a Jewish American won those seats and that the constituents spoke up. But it's still really a travesty that at this point in our U.S. history, we're just now getting people of color and of other persuasions into those offices.
Well, there's two sides, and of course we have a lot of topics, so we can't linger on one. But let me just say this: we can look at a glass half full, half empty. If we choose to look at it as half full, and this is I'm just being trying to be an objective host. I have a definite opinion, but I'm just trying to be an objective host. Looking at this from a glass half full. Let's just say, thank God that we have started, and hopefully, if this can happen in the state of Georgia, that it's something that can take place in red states across the country, and that we really can start looking at individuals. That race would not even race or religion or any of those things would not even be a factor, but that we'll just look at people on the content of their character and what they bring to the table politically. The second topic. And this is probably we may end up doing this one in the dialogue a little later on. I'll tell you at the halfway mark the things that we're doing. Just so you know, we may run over a couple minutes tonight. We want to give this a comprehensive look at the new year, at the year that's outgoing. But on January the 6th, the date that Senator Osloff and Warnock were ratified. Their election victories were ratified on January the 6th. There was a resurrection, not a resurrection. It was an insurrection. And I don't know if we have a poster to look at that, but there was an insurrection in the U.S. Capitol, something that we had never seen before. Guys, what do y'all think about that? We only have a minute or two to talk about it.
I wish Trump didn't call everybody there at that time. That's for sure. I mean, it was a rally. It was a lot of people, and that was an opportunity time, at least to me, for something to go wrong, and it sure as heck did.
Jan, I like what you're saying about that, Gary.
Well, having worked in that exact environment, having walked the grounds of the U.S. Capitol, having accompanied my members of Congress, United States Senator Donald Regal and Congressman John Conyers and Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm on the floor of the Capitol on many, many occasions, it was once again a travesty that happened. And it was pretty much known that was going to happen. It was a call to violence by the former president. And hopefully the committees, the task force can get to the bottom of it, because it was really an attempt to overthrow our country, our government, and our history of peaceful transfer of power that we have been known the globe over. So hopefully there will be a full airing of what happened. Pretty much we know what happened. We are seeing and hearing about the emails, the text messages about from Trump's cabinet officials. So they planned it, and he applauded it. He loved the fact that there was this type of tyranny. And unfortunately, there was bloodshed in that space. And so they have to be held accountable. And I think he needs to be held accountable. And individuals that supported him and that action and want to have the blinders on that, it was just another day at the Capitol and those people were just tourists. We know that's a lot of hogwash, and all of them need to be held accountable.
I just can't see it as an insurrection. I mean, you have people going into the Capitol building. It was warned, that the National Guard was, called for, but then Nancy or whoever decided that they weren't needed. The Capitol Police knew that this was coming. Being a police officer retired, I mean, it didn't seem like they had enough manpower there to stop anything like that if it happened. And to call it an insurrection, nobody was armed except the Capitol Police at that time, and the Capitol Police, took out a Air Force veteran who was unarmed going through a window. But that's the only bloodshed, except for a Capitol Guard guy that either had a heart attack or some kind of a health issue that passed on as well. Everybody says it was an insurrection, but I don't see how you can do it without weapons and mass destruction. I mean, Biden said, this is the United States of America. We have nuclear weapons. We have F-16s, I mean, I don't see how that little group could have been, anything to do anything.
That's outrageous. That's outrageous. If we look back at 1776, the same type of tyranny and murders happened, and they didn't have a number of guns and weapons. Some did, some didn't. But at the U.S. Capitol, January 6th, to hear a former law enforcement official say that you cannot see it as an insurrection, those people were called to action to try to stop the verifying, the confirmation of the election. And they didn't like the outcome. And so they wanted to overthrow the government and to stop the actual confirmation of Joe Biden being elected president. People were killed. You can say that an officer had a heart attack or not, but he was killed. Those people breached the perimeter of the Capitol. They jumped over and moved the rope and stanchions and other barriers. They were trespassing. And yes, here we have a former law enforcement officer saying that it's hard to see that as an insurrection. Members of Congress were hiding under their desks. Their staffs were fearful for their lives. If that wasn't an insurrection, which of course those who support the former president say it wasn't, then I don't know what else you can call it. It was a riot. It was violent, bloody. People died. The former Army veteran, I'm not sure what branch she was in, who had to be shot in order to stop advancing, breaking into the Capitol. There were windows broken on the Capitol. Doors that had stood for 200 years were broken. I mean, it's just incredible that there are people who still want to have blinders on and say that that was not a violent attack on the U.S. Capitol vis-a-vis the U.S. government. It is what it is.
I can see right here from this discussion that we're going to have have a show to just deal with this, but we're going to broaden the scope. I really would. Next week would be the time, but next week we want to do some. We want to talk about visioning into the new year, but maybe shortly around after the King Day, we're going to have to deal with this. And the scope is going to be brought to this. We're not going to just talk about the insurrection. And yes, I'm going to continue to use the term insurrection because some of the things that you all are just saying right there. But I want to broaden.
Dozell, I cannot let that go because there was a noose there specifically for the former vice president. There were rallying calls to get Pence, vis-a-vis kill Pence, Vice President Pence. Why on earth were those people doing that? Why on earth was there a guillotine, a noose hanging for an elected official? It is what it is.
I want to broaden the scope to talk about is our democracy in peril? Because that act on that date went far beyond it. So let's go to the next subject. That blends right into it. I should have known I wouldn't be able to do this, thinking that we could kind of move on, but that's all right. This is healthy discussion. And let me see what Fern said. She said, so spoken by a Democrat, I'm sorry, but enough is enough to continue to perpetuate the radical conspiracy. Let's deal in real facts. A supposed passive protest that went very bad. Now, Fern, I can't let you get away with that, sis. We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about is democracy as a whole in peril. That's what we'll talk about. No. And I think that was just an act that put it there. And it's a whole lot we can say about it. So it takes right into the next discussion point. The next point is he had been defeated at the polls, but he was still the president on January the 13th of 2021. The U.S. Congress voted to impeach President Trump for the second time in 4 years. In one term, he's been impeached twice. What's your guys' feelings on that? I'll start with you, Gary.
Again, I'm a Republican. I was a Democrat since I was 21. Moved down from New York into Florida. I was born in Queens, Long Island, New York. 4 years after Trump, I can understand the man. I can understand the New York attitude. Get it done. We moved down here a long time ago in '58. Folks said, Gary, when you turn 21 and you vote, you better vote Democrat. You're in Florida. So I was a Democrat all the way up. I even voted for Obama the first time, but not the second time. It's just, again, we've gone to the opposite poles of who we are. It seems like, I thought Obama would unite us more than divide us, and it seems like we have the same thing going on now again. People say that Trump divided us. I mean, whatever. I think also it's a problem that I listen to Fox and everybody else probably listens to CNN and NBCS and CBS and whatever. I mean, I guess it's listen to. I mean, honestly, but or who you associate with. But Ben Carson was my first choice. I mean, I met the man personally at Embry-Riddle. Later on, when he bowed out and he says, "Hey, vote for Trump," that did it for me. It's just I met Biden. I don't know how many hundred years ago. I mean, Janet Reno was the Attorney General at the time. We were at a National Crime Prevention Coalition meeting in Washington, D.C., and I had a talk with him, and he was one of our speakers with Janet Reno. And I mean, that man isn't the same man that hid in his basement all this time and was elected president of the United States. It's just not the same man. It's not the same party that I was affiliated with, the Democratic Party. That's all I have right now.
Jan, what you think about your former president being impeached a second time?
I think it was appropriate for the actions. Certainly the actions of the call to violence, to call to the insurrection, and the first go around. I mean, that was a person that was unfit to be president of the United States. So it was only a matter of time. It was a ticking time bomb. And he, pushed all the buttons, did everything correct to be impeached. So I think it was a foreseeable part of his authoritarian desire to rule this country like Hitler. I mean, those are his idols. His father taught him well. So once again, it is what it is.
So, ladies and gentlemen out there in Dozy Land, KP, we know you're listening, man. You gave us that title. Let me just say this: you have two differing viewpoints, and I'm probably sitting there somewhere in the middle. My idol, Joe Scarborough, as far as doing these shows, would probably have weighed in by now. I'll just say this about the impeachment, a second impeachment. A lot of commentators refer to the former president as the twice impeached, defeated after one term former president. Janis made a statement he was ill fit for the White House. I'll just say this: I thank God that the democracy that we live in, this in peril, that the Republicans legislatures all across the states are really, this voting process that they're really putting in at peril. And if the government does not step in, or the Supreme Court, good luck with that one, right, Dozy? Step in, voting is going to be maybe a thing of the past, because it's going to be appointments, even if the voting says one thing. But I digress. Let me get back. He was elected by the people. That's what this country is, built on a democracy. He had a shot. We used the democratic system. He was voted out. So I'll give him that credit. So this leads right into the next topic. I'm trying to get up to topic 7 before we take the break. So on January 21st, Joseph R. Biden was elected as the 46th president of the United States of America. He was sworn in as the 46th president. Panel, what say you, Janis?
Well, he was duly elected, got the highest vote ever in our electoral process. And so, he's in office. I am a Democrat, have been, and will probably always be, but I'm not always in lockstep with the party. And I'm really disappointed at this point with a number of things that are happening in this administration. A number of key pieces of legislation that should have been on the front burner are not. That's police reform, that's voting rights, and that's reparations for African Americans. And I'm very disappointed with the Congressional Black Caucus right now. 56 voting members that represent largely African American districts are not wielding their power the way they should, as we see other entities like the Progressive Caucus and others. So I can be critical of the Congress, of the White House, I've worked in the White House in administration, actually 2 administrations. I worked in the Trump administration. I actually represented Donald Trump and his real estate interests back in the 80s when I was a lobbyist for the commercial building industry. I can be very critical of what I see, and what I see right now is definitely a threat to our democracy. The threat to changing voting abilities of our citizenry, the access is a threat to our democracy. We're supposed to be making voting and accessibility to the polls or absentee ballots, however a person wants to vote, more accessible, not less accessible. And what it is, once again, it is what it is. Republicans are finding it harder to be elected in due process. So they're trying to change the rules. It's nothing different about that. Republicans, and I shall say principally white people in this country, they will change the rules to fit what they want. And what they want is to get in power. So they're going to change the rules. And that's what they're doing across the country, trying to codify it in federal law. Definitely they're doing it at the state level.
Okay. Hey, Gary, you've already stated, of course, you're a Republican, former Democrat. Hey, my good friend Griff is on, Kevin's on. Thanks, everybody. Kevin, Griff's on. My big brother, Griff, thanks, guys, for chiming in. We're just kind of dealing with this thing, man. So, Kevin, what were your feelings on Inauguration Day? How did you feel about what was going on in Washington? This was about 2 weeks after we'll call it an insurrection, demonstration, whatever you want to call it. What was your feeling about the inauguration, Gary?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Biden was elected. Again, this is not the guy I knew umpteen years ago, and he hasn't done anything that I know of that's really that great. He, got the infrastructure bill passed. That's great, but what he did with Afghanistan, I don't think anybody will forgive or forget. The economy isn't that great. Promises made that COVID was going away, and again, it's just like climate control or climate change. Throw money at a problem and make it go away. If God is in charge, he's in charge of the climate. And if people think, okay, let's make America the cleanest that there is. Well, we're probably one of the top countries with the cleanest environment that there is. However, we're only a small portion of this world. And if we're letting China do what they want and India do what they do, and if we're still using them as a developing nation status where they can get away with anything and stuff, we're not holding them responsible for the COVID. It's just it's a different world. That's all I can say. I mean, this isn't the Democratic Party that I knew when I was younger, I guess. And when a president is elected, usually there's a honeymoon period. There was no honeymoon period for Trump. I mean, there was no give him a chance and all that stuff. The article in the New York Post, I believe, was the impeachment starts today. And Nancy, all she wanted to do was impeach, and make sure that he doesn't run for a second office term, actually. And it was all this Russiagate, and the proof in the pudding is the fact that he had nothing to do with it. It's not the same party that I was a part of.
Well, let me say this. You probably felt like I felt on November the 6th, I think it was, of 1980, when Ronald Reagan was elected and started the Reagan Revolution. But here's the thing about a democracy. We accept who's voting. Well, let me ask you this question before I do this diatribe. Who do you think that he was voted in, or that the election was stolen from the previous president?
I'm kind of wondering that myself. Here's Barack Obama. Biden got more votes than he did. And here's Trump, who this last time got more votes than he did the first time. It's just, the fact that state constitutions put and the United States constitutions put the conduct and the operating of the elections in the hands of the legislators, not the governors and not the attorney generals, to come up with something like, oh, because of COVID, we have to do mass mailouts of unrequested ballots. I mean, to me, that was looking for trouble right there in the beginning. I mean, to people that have moved, I mean, nobody, not many states probably, I don't know, have their voter rolls in order. I mean, people moved out of state, people died. But no, if he's, sworn in and, he's our president and if you can't respect the person, I feel sorry for the man myself. My mother-in-law had dementia. We had her live with us, and lo and behold, it's a horrible thing. And I am just senility or whatever you want to call it. I mean, this is not the man that I saw umpteen years ago. That's all I can say.
Okay, so in all fairness, people do get a chance to evolve. We're going to have to speed it up, but I just want to let this last thing be said. The America that I have grown to be grateful for, and I'm certainly I have a lot of issues, but this nation, one of its beauties was that its accessibility and making voting as easy as possible for people who are legal to vote to be able to vote. What we've seen happen in the last 5-6 years is that everything has been done to basically turn back the clock to where voting is now like it was in the Jim Crow segregated days. And I think we're leading, I hate to say this, but I think, I won't say it in this forum, but we're leading to some very serious consequences as a result of that. The very next topic is...
Well, Delza, I just cannot sit here and not even raise the question, and I think it was not factual what your guest stated, that in many states ballots were mailed out to people that didn't request them. Once again, those were a request to vote absentee, particularly during a pandemic. Why wouldn't any patriot in this country want to make voting more accessible? Why would you not want to make it more accessible to let people know that they have the opportunity to vote absentee? Why is it a problem for secretaries of state to send out information to let people know that this is available to them? Why is that a problem?
There's no problem. It's the fact that everybody should know that they can vote absentee. They can proxy vote, whatever you want to call it. I mean, just as long as you request it. But mass mailouts to everybody who has an address or a voting number. I mean, lo and behold, you get a ballot. You're not there. You don't live there anymore. You're in a different state. Some people, I guess, could actually vote twice. I mean, if they're registered in another state.
That hasn't happened.
Hey, Gary.
There's no evidence that has happened. In fact, those individuals who did vote twice or have vote for someone else who was deceased were Republicans. So,
hey, Gary.
I mean, that this is just ludicrous.
Okay.
It's
So,
absolutely
Gary,
ludicrous.
you may have just seen the question that evangelism. My dear friend just asked. He says, so, Gary, do you believe the election was fair, yes or no?
It was fair. I mean, if the law of the land, prevailed and we have him as president. Do I like him as president? No.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next topic. I'm still trying to get a little bit further so we can do the break. Okay. The next thing was, and guys, if you look at topic number 5, on almost the very next day after Joe Biden was inaugurated on the 22nd of January, the United States surpassed its 500th case of the coronavirus. We are now, today is December the 27th. I know this because it's my kid brother's birthday. We have now gotten up to 800,000+ cases of coronavirus. Guys, where do you see this thing going? Very briefly, 1 minute, so we can press on.
It's a virus. It'll mutate until we herd immunity. We're not giving any credit for people who have had it before and have natural immunity. Again, I guess I'm at the opposite end of this spectrum, but I think we're going to get through it one way or the other. We got to live with it. I mean,
Jan, are you satisfied with President Biden's efforts, particularly when you compare him to the previous president's efforts to try to eradicate this virus?
Well, first of all, whoever got into office after the infections had taken over in this country was going to have a hard time. And so I think it's truly unfair to place that on squarely on the shoulders of this president at this time. I think the response that this administration has done to help ease the economic challenges that a number of people who were unemployed as a result of COVID infections was responsible and accurate. Right now, I think that the forecast of the number of COVID infections increasing, particularly as this virus mutates and we get various strains, was not as adequate as it should have been. I think that they should have been prepared in advance for more at-home testing and more availability of testing. So, there are a number of things that could have been done differently. Monday night quarterbacking we can all do, but no one outside of God, him or herself coming down and being in the presidency would have been able to eradicate this virus, because it's out of control due to the selfishness of Americans who don't want to be patriots and help their fellow woman and man out by using mitigation methods and by getting a COVID vaccine.
I think that kind of ties into what Gary said when he talked about we can't reach herd immunity until we do come together as patriots. I agree with you, Jan. It is selfish. I have family members. Let me just put out, I was in my doctor's office the other day, and that particular doctor said this to me. We were talking about cruising, and I said, we just had a lovely cruise. I want to get back on a boat, but not with this virus resurging like this. And the doctor said, I want one person, and I have family, and the doctor said that the doctor had family members too that are not vaccinated. And the doctor said, I have asked patients, family members, and others, I'm looking for one reason to not get vaccinated. And I have not heard one out of more than 50 responses. So there we have it. Let's move on, guys. I'm trying to get to a point so that we can go to the break. That was on February the 22nd. How about February 22nd, 500 cases of, we hit our 500th death. We're up to 800 now plus. Also on the 22nd of February, and Griff, this hits home for us. Tiger Woods, guys, was involved in an accident, a car accident that nearly caused at least one of his legs to be amputated. By the grace and glory of Almighty God, Amen. We saw last week. And Griff, you'll like this one. Tiger and his son, Charlie Woods, participated in a son or daughter tournament. And after seeing Charlie Woods place that ball off the tee, go right for the flag, which was right on the edge of a lake, he did it almost on consecutive holes. I went on the golf course the very next day. I mean, he so inspired me. I said, if that 12-year-old kid can have his game to that level of precision, there's no reason in the world that this old man, who's old enough to be his great-granddad, can't do the same thing. So unfortunately, I didn't quite do it, but at least I was inspired to do it. So what's our comments on Tiger Woods' accident and recovery, fellas, of team Jan and Gary and those of you who are online? What do we think about that very briefly?
He's had a couple of accidents, but this last one, I didn't think he was ever going to walk. But I mean, I saw him recently on that Facebook page or whatever when he was hitting those drives down the. I mean, it was just a miracle to see him doing what he was doing. I mean, he is a God blessed person.
Wow, Jan.
Oh, he's immortal. He's immortal. He's a human, and he had an accident. It's not the first one, so it's a good thing that he was able to walk away from it technically and is recovering. And he's able to go back into the profession that he
Yeah.
has trained for and has become superior to most in. So I'm very, very glad that he was able to recover and go back to the job, the sport that he loves and has pioneered, his way of winning, and also be able to interact with his children. I mean, that's really more important, that he's able to be
Yeah.
active with his children,
Yeah.
standing on both legs. So I'm very happy for that. Tiger Woods is not the end all be all for me, but as a human, I do. I'm very glad that he's able to recapture his physical posture.
I was like blown away when I saw him last week. And I saw him, Gary, you may have seen him grimace a couple times when he hit the ball, like you said,
Oh,
striking it down the fairways. But amazed that he's still able to do that. I think and I just think all glory goes to God that
amen.
he survived that accident, that he's able to walk at this point, and that he can get out and hit a golf ball is remarkable. We got a couple of more. I just remember because of some sports and entertainment. I want to go just a minute or two more, guys. Let's keep this down to a 1 minute response. On April the 2nd, and this we're going to talk about this more. We talk about sports and entertainment. By the way, dialogue with Dozy quiz question. Somebody asked me the other day, what does ESPN stand for? Does anybody know what that stands for? ESPN, what's that, the acronym for? The abbreviation for ESPN?
Sports Network, I guess.
You got the last two. Well, not the last two, but ESPN. It's actually Entertainment Sports Programming Network.
Oh, okay.
Entertainment Sports Programming Network. Yeah, I was at our location there where you are working when it was born in 1979. I was there working as a policeman when ESPN came on the air. But this is so on April the 2nd, Major League Baseball made a very critical last minute decision that had a ramification of near $1 billion to pull the Major League Baseball All-Star game out of Atlanta, out of the state of Georgia because of Georgia's voter suppression laws. Guys, I know it's hard, but take a minute and comment on that. Major League Baseball pulled the game out and put it in Colorado.
As far as I know, the game has always been played in Georgia, at the whatever the Georgia Dome is or whatever. But for whatever reason, they decided to go with the current wave or woke and take it somewhere else.
Time out, guys. I see a side discussion brewing on in the comments about the gender of God. We'll talk about that later. I'm gonna leave that alone. Griff and Jan, I'm gonna let y'all. We're gonna deal with that later. Okay. So Jan, did you have a minute that you want to comment on the Major League Baseball pulling out of Atlanta for the Major League Baseball All-Star game, which is a very festive occasion?
Because of COVID. Yeah, absolutely. I think that
No,
the
not
United
COVID.
States.
No. They pulled out because of the state of Georgia's voter suppression laws.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Off topic. I absolutely concur with that, and all other corporations who are, as dictionary.com said, that the word of the year for 2021 is allyship. And so I think that those corporations, the only thing that speaks in this country is money. I had a lot of it when I was a lobbyist. I bought and sold members of Congress. So money speaks. And if that is what it takes, the allyship of major corporations, to let the government know, and those people who are running for office know, that you're not going to get funding for their campaigns, know that they need to just be more humane and allow everyone to participate equally in this country. So I think it was absolutely the right move.
Okay, these next two topics run hand in hand, and it's very timely. Number eight, the eighth topic is that on the 20th of April, on the 11th of April, Dante Wright was shot and killed by a Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, which is a suburb of Minneapolis, police officer Kim Potter, who was recently found guilty on charges of manslaughter and first-degree manslaughter, 2 charges. She was found guilty on both charges that she was charged with. And you know what I said after that verdict? I said the state of Minnesota got 2 out of 3 of its cases right. Because if you remember, before George Floyd, before this case, which incredibly, as they were dealing with I think the sentencing of the shooter of George Floyd, while all of that was going on, this happened. But 2 years before, is his name Philando Castile, was killed by a scared police officer in the state of Minnesota. And it was captured on video. And it really started this whole thing about defunding the police or get more qualified people that would not be scared. That was manslaughter if there ever was one. So I said Minnesota got 2 of the 3. So we just saw her found guilty. Any 1-minute responses on that, guys, panel?
Keith Ellison is from Detroit. So glad that he was overseeing that process as the state's attorney. I don't think there could have been any other outcome if people are being real by excessive force. And that's why we need to have codified police reform. She was a 26-year veteran. She was training others that day. And I mean, you are a former law enforcement. You know the difference between a gun and a taser. So I think that they got it right. I don't think that is the end all be all. I still think that we need to have police reform at the federal level and at every state level.
Gary.
One thing, with a situation like that, I mean, from what I understand, the sergeant was trying to handcuff him. He broke the law himself. Lo and behold, he got away, he got in the car. The police officer was trying to put his hand in the car. If the car would have sped away with the officer hanging on the end of it, somebody would have been hurt other than maybe the driver. But again, I was never issued a taser, but I did feel what a taser was about. And like you say, one thing is, your sidearm on your right side or wherever you shoot from, and the other one is a cross draw. And one, like you said, weighs less and looks different and stuff like that. But in the heat of the situation, again, I don't know what she was thinking or whatever, but she might have thought that she had a taser. She yelled out, "Taser, taser," and pulled the trigger. But still in all, it's a person died and the jury found her guilty.
Breaking the laws of journalism, I'm weighing in on this. I guess it's the preacher Christian heart of mine. I have sympathy for Officer Potter. Obviously, she made a mistake, but at the same time, that family can never see that son again, or that baby can never see her dad. So yes, I think consequences are. I know consequences are what needs to happen. It's just an unfortunate situation, and it came in an unfortunate time in the history of our nation. I hear what you're saying, Jan, and I mean, so I'm gonna get a lot of people that's gonna make comments about this, but I think America, I don't think it'll be Russia or China that's gonna cause us to, I think we're gonna implode from the inside, because the divisiveness that we've seen over the last several years, I think is just a powder keg of what's yet to come. And I think what we've seen, that people have perspectives on that, and that's just a clear-cut, to me, that's a clear-cut case. No, Gary, just tell you how long ago I was in law enforcement, there were no tasers. We didn't carry tasers, but I've held my brother's tasers, and I know the difference in colors and the difference in weight. And like you said, you carry it on your strong arm, you carry your sidearm, and I just don't see how that could ever happen. So
yeah, the first two letters of COP is CO, and the last 2 letters is OP. And if people would just cooperate and nobody would resist arrest, these situations wouldn't happen. At least that's what I see.
I
I
just,
got, I
I
got
just
to,
don't
I got to go
think
in
the
on
end
that one,
justifies the
Dozell.
means.
I got to go in on that one. This whole compliance. Yes, indeed, that young man in that particular situation tried to break free. But I think that officers need to recognize that Black men and women in this country all too often have a target on their back. And so it's a scary thing when law enforcement, Black or white, comes to a Black person, because there's a culture within your profession that does not, there's a God complex within your profession that is constantly, Black people are coming up dead when they are unarmed and when there was not a real threat. They already knew that that young man was not armed. They had already checked his license. They knew where he lived. So why would she pull the trigger? Because that endangered not only the driver, who, as you can say, tried to flee, but it also endangered the young woman who was in the car with him. And by shooting him, or even tasing him to immobilize him, and he was under the wheel, that jeopardized the safety of any other motorist in that area. They had his address, they had his name. They could have gone at another time and picked him up from his home or surveyed his home to find him. That act and that jury, those 12 people, they saw the actions as wrong. Yes, it was a mistake that she made, but the whole way that it happened was wrong.
But it could have been stopped. Yeah.
Uh, you know what? This is what I'm gonna do. Uh, uh, and the producer's asking me a question, so I'm trying to do this thing like in TV, you got the monitor in your ear and you're trying to think on the run. Well, I'm a little old for that, guys, but I'm gonna try to make this work. The producer's just mentioning to me that we got this side issue going on with Griff and Jan, and we're gonna deal with that in a second. But we're gonna do one more, and we're going to do one more topic, and then we're going to go to break. Let me tell you what this topic is. Before we go to the topic, I'm going to introduce it like this. Janis, I started out by saying, I was piggybacking on what you said, and the term states' rights, is not a good term for most minorities because it oftentimes denotes segregationist mindsets. But the federal government is going to have to stand in on law enforcement reform. Because these are the words, and maybe you know, Jan, if anybody knows the words, who wrote the words to this song 35 years ago, let me know. These are the words. Hey, Mr. Policeman, I see you with a gun in your hand. It's a shame, it's a disgrace that every time you show your face, somebody dies, yes. Somebody dies, yeah. Nine, 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 nine. I just gave it away. Okay, so I'm stopping. Now, I'm an ex-cop. My whole family are cops. So you know I'm not anti-police officer at all. Who wrote that song?
I don't know who wrote the song. I can hear it in my head, and I certainly remember it, but I can't think of the artist. But policing in the United States needs to be reformed. It needs to serve the people.
Jan, hold one second. I want to answer that one. Let me give you another. Oh man, Griff, you got it. The what do you call it? The key part was na 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 na. So yeah, it was Rick James. So that leads into the final topic before we go to break, and that was that on the 20th of April, Derek Chauvin was found guilty of 3 charges in the murder of George Floyd. That was pivotal, guys. That was almost a year to that fatal day in Minneapolis that somebody happened to video that. Go ahead, Jan, because you're right in on what we're talking about.
Well, again, I support law enforcement. I support peaceful assemblies, but I don't support the unabashed, brazen manner in which all too often law enforcement officers in this country brutalize and treat people of color. And by that I really mean Black people. And so, I've experienced it. I've experienced wrongful arrest of police officers' egos, because I questioned them. I, in their view, confronted them with the facts and with the truth. And so for that, I got opportunity to spend the night in jail. And when I sued the District of Columbia, its police officers, and all other parties, I won because 12 people on a jury have also experienced wrongful actions by our law enforcement. So there needs to be reforms. And it's so sad that the Department of Justice has decided to stop keeping statistics on officer involved shootings. We need those statistics, because if not, we're not going to be able to actually pinpoint where the problems are happening throughout the country. So that's something that I know I'll be writing and talking to my members of Congress about. We still need to fund the gathering of data for officer involved shootings around the country.
Okay, we're at the break, Gary. If you didn't want to respond, we got a couple of viewers. My dear friend, he's going to be joining us when we come back on the other side of the break. He wants to weigh in on a lot of stuff, and I'm going to give him a chance to weigh in on some of this stuff. I just sent him the link. He's going to be weighing in, Ms. Toya. Dialogue with Dozie. Wow, we're about 30 minutes over. That's all right. Stay calm. We're rushing through. We're just about through with the news events of 2021. At least we didn't have all the mama's listening, so I won't use the word. We don't have all the it rhymes with wish that took place in 2020 with all the racial stuff and the police junk and the heart of the virus. We didn't have all that. Dialogue with Dozie is brought to you every single week right here on this station, on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Dialogue with Dozie is brought to you fresh, 8 o'clock by moregogiga.com. Moregogiga.com. Look, just look around. Look at these windows. Look how fresh they are. Look how appealing they are. Look how bright they are. Look how they make a dude like me not look like the worst dude in the world. Janis is beautiful. Gary is handsome. But I got to just kind of make it. They even make me look good. That's moregogiga.com. They do the best virtual producing in all of the world. Moregogiga.com. And we shout you out. They do websites, web building, virtual producing, whatever your needs are, marketing. Hey, they got you. There's more. GoGiga.com. That's my oldest, Latoya VG, Latoya Glenn, her main girl, Miss Makia Johnson, and their dynamic team, moregogiga.com. Also, we shout out and we do it. They never ask me. She doesn't even know we doing it. This is we shout out every week. It's called Showering Love, but it's they do showeringLove.org. Go to their website. They do buses with showers for homeless population. They go into the heart of where most homeless population. One bus has 3 showers. One has 2. I've been there. I've seen it. They have brand new clothing, underwear, top clothes, coats, everything. You get a chance to come out of there a new person. And guess what? You come out of the shower, you put on new clothes, you go across the parking lot, and there's someone there to cut your hair, or a beautician to fix you up. There's somebody to make you up. And then my friend who's watching us tonight, my coach, my mentor in the golf course, Timothy Griffith is there, or someone that does the same thing he does to continue this renewal process. They get you registered to vote, Gary. They do it on the upswing. It's all on the up and up, okay? So we want you to check out showeringlove.org. Jeannie Arbaugh, she was slated to come on last week. She was under the weather and missed it and woke me up in the middle of the night apologizing. She's coming on in a few weeks. That's showeringlove.org. And there's also more Go Giga Creations, moreGoGigaCreations.org. Pastor Burrell is saying Dolphins are leading 10-0 at the half. That's awesome. Tim, oh man, bless you, Tim. It's the best show. Listen, let me do this. My friend Otis Reagan is going to be joining us on the other side of the break. I am so happy he's joining. I want to do this. Well, let's go. We lost some. A lot of us lost people that we knew and loved in 2021. Janis talked about Christmas not being the same. I'm blessed. Garrett, we went and surprised my 91-year-old mother. We drove up and we were sliced between generations. We went up and saw one of our three kids in Orlando and stopped by and spent a couple hours with them. Then we surprised my mother. She called me some choice words because she said I keep telling lies to her, telling I'm one place and I'm right around the corner, sneaking up on her. But it was a great couple of days, great weekend. We got back here last night. But listen, everybody is not able to do that, and we're sensitive to that. We want to take a second out of the dialogue, my brother and I and our host, guest, and just in memory for some of those that we lost in the year of 2021. Wow. Thank you to the Go-Get Creations team. I was lying in my mother's room late, like 2 o'clock Sunday morning when we saw that Bishop Tutu had passed, and I right then and there added him to the list. And you just see, man, it's just great the work that they do. And I asked them for some upbeat music, and that they did. And so I'm just so glad that they were able to do this. Gary, were you going to say something?
No, I just appreciate the memories there. I mean, a lot of people we lost last year. We lost a lot of people, like you said, in police contacts as well as law enforcement officers. I've only been to the National Law Enforcement Memorial up there in D.C. twice, and there's 2 people that I know there personally, but we have to remember them as well.
Well, you know, Kim actually, he only did about 50 jobs when he was on JSO. But one of the things that he was a honor guard, and the honor guards, oh my goodness, they showed up along with the USMC, was so great at our father's celebration. Whoa. And that was as much tribute to my dad as it was to Kim, or to Kim as it was my dad, because and I know he used to do that train up there every year, Gary, for that remembrance. And I mean, I live so much through my little brother, and he talks so much about that. So we're back on the dialogue. Where's Otis Reagan, and who do we have on the dialogue? Let's bring them up. They're here. Let's bring them up. Otis, we're looking for you. Who is Coach? Coach, we need a face, man. We don't want no. What's up with the face thing? We want some faces. We don't want to just hear voices. We want faces, guys. So we're picking up where we left off. And Coach Reagan, I'm looking for you, man. Come on back on. And we want you back on also. You want to be on, and we want you here. Wow. Oh, this is going to be pretty tough. Man, I've never done this much in-show work before in all my life. But I want you guys to come on, Janis. You got some guys that I'm gonna have to protect you because they're coming on. But let's get back to the year in review. Uh, that's what this is the year in
You
review.
know, I'm from
The
Detroit. I
the
can
t-
handle myself.
yeah. Okay, you're gonna love this one. The 10th, the thing that the dialogue noted is the 10th area of issue of the year in review. This was that on June the 17th. June the 17th, Gary President Biden signed a law establishing June 19th every year as
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth. Juneteenth. Have at it, guys.
Well, from what I understand, according to history, which I love American history, good, bad, and ugly, but apparently when Abraham Lincoln did the Emancipation Proclamation, it took umpteen more years until it got down to Texas to find out that the slaves down there were free, and that's the celebration of that date.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Jan. I know you. That goes right down.
Well, it's not something that really phases me. You know, something that's more important in my mind is HR 40 and Senate Bill 40, which they're companion pieces of legislations for reparations for African Americans. And as you know, and I'll let others know, I helped to write the first HR 40 when I worked for Congressman John Conyers, who was the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee back in 1989. And it's 32 years since we wrote that first bill. That bill has been reintroduced uh, for 32 years and has gotten very little movement. It's in committee now, Judiciary Committee. Reparations for African Americans is necessary. So Juneteenth Day becoming a federal holiday is, for me, window dressing on the set. It does nothing for me. Um, I want reparations. I want 40 acres and a mule that our great grandparents were not provided to ease them into society after having been enslaved, brutalized, and building this country, its economy, and its physical structures. So, Juneteenth Day, I've known about it and have celebrated it for many years. Making it a federal holiday means nothing to me unless this Congress and any other Congress addresses the original sin of the United States, which is providing reparations for African Americans. And HR 40 and Senate Bill 40 are only asking for the study of how reparations could be dispersed to descendants of enslaved, chattel slave, not immigrated Black people, but those who are descendant of enslaved Africans who suffered wage theft, which plays out in the lack of generational wealth in this country. So until HR 40 and Senate Bill 40 are passed in this or any other Congress, until the allyship of white members of Congress come to terms with the need for reparations for African Americans, Juneteenth, federal holiday, means nothing to me.
Wow. Who is it? This who? Tell me who is that I'm looking at? What coach is that?
Turn on your speaker, your mic.
Yeah, who is that's? Is that Coach Tim?
Coach Nick.
Okay, all right. So Jan, I'm really that's I hear the substance that you're coming from. That's surprising. You think that was more ceremonial than substantive?
Yes, definitely ceremonial. I mean, on whole, who asked for this piece of legislation? Who asked for it? The Congressional Black Caucus didn't ask for it. There are members of the Congressional Black Caucus who certainly stood up around the pen signing in the Rose Garden. But, you know, I am someone who sat in committee next to Congressman John Conyers when we finally got the Martin Luther King holiday bill passed in 1983. Okay, we got it passed out of committee. and then we got it passed through the House and the Senate, and then we got Reagan to sign off on the Martin Luther King holiday bill. I was there. And Congressman Conyers reintroduced that piece of legislation for 18 years after the assassination of Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King. So here we are now, over 50 years later, after the assassination of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and we get Juneteenth Day. Whoopee, whoopee, whoopee. I want to see reparations for African Americans. We are owed that. We are the original patriots of this country. We are still dealing with the vestiges of enslavement. We are now going back into Jim Crow 2.0. Let me see those people who signed off on Juneteenth Day sign off on HR 40 and Senate Bill 40. Then we'll be really doing something, because it's overdue. Anything else is just ceremonial.
Okay, all right. Go Giga, please include Coach Nichols on. That's my buddy, my good friend. I just didn't know who it was. That's Coach, we call him Coach Surge. He's far wiser than his age. We're gonna let him join in. He has a question. It may be away from the year in review, but we'll take it and deal with it briefly. Go ahead, Coach. And thanks for joining the dialogue. Coach Surge, you got are you unmuted, sir? Okay, while he's unmuting, and Coach Reagan, I'm having her send that directly to you so you can come on also. Okay, we're going to the next topic, and Jan, I know this is right down your line. We actually did a show on this. I was in Orlando. We're at the 11th topic, year in review. On the 30th of June, entertainer who was formerly known as America's Dad, Bill Cosby, was released from a prison sentence where he was released on a legal technicality, but it was a real technicality. Jan, I'll let you start us off. I know you got a lot to say. Kind of brief that up for us, please.
Well, it's unfortunate that this esteemed individual, Bill Cosby, who has made some incredible contributions to our American culture, chose to treat women in the manner in which he did over the years. It's a culture of sexual assault, sexual violence, sexual harassment, and many, many people knew what was going on and didn't come forward. And so the technicality in which Bill Cosby was released on, it's unfortunate those prosecutors didn't dot their I's and sign their T's. That goes into for me, the culture of rape, sexual assault, and abuse on our campuses. My alma mater, University of Michigan, Michigan State University, Eastern Michigan University, was it Penn State or University of Pennsylvania? So much of the culture. We've got Olympians that have been sexually assaulted and sexually abused. So there's a culture of rape and sexual violence in this country that permeates its way through all of our institutions. Bill Cosby, it's unfortunate that he, chose to treat women in the manner in which he did. He got caught, got off on a technicality. That to me is unfortunate.
Okay, Gary, what did you think of that on the 30th of June when Bill Cosby was released from prison?
When Bill Cosby was released? Yeah, I mean, Bill Cosby, everybody loved him. I mean, he was a phenomenal person, and for what he did, and apparently if people knew about it, that's horrible. But I do Kairos, which is prison ministry, and I've gone into Tomoka prison here in Daytona, and we minister and mentor to the guys, and lo and behold, I see these old guys, and I mean, they're in wheelchairs. One's leg's missing because of diabetes, and one, it's I guess it's my bleeding heart that I still have, and sometimes these aren't death sentences, and sometimes they are. I lost a guy that I was warming up to. I mean, after a couple of visitations and stuff, he wasn't there the last time I was there. But what I'm saying is, sometimes you think about these grandparents, they're grandfathers, and they they shouldn't be in prison for the rest of their lives. I mean, we all make mistakes. Lo and behold, forgive to be forgiven. To forgive is human. To err is human. To forgive is divine. I mean, it's a horrible thing that he did. Um, it's the way the law is. I mean, I'll go by the law. I'll go by the vote. That's what it is.
Okay. While you were saying that, and Garrett, I had this conversation. I remember being in Orlando, and we did the show emanated from Orlando one night. I think it was after the R. Kelly conviction. And you see Janis's comments, do the crime, do the time. And I came on that show. I was actually going to be out, but I came on to give some balance because I know Janis has a feeling about that. And I just kind of wanted to be kind of, balanced out. Bill Cosby has not shown a whole lot of remorse for what he allegedly did, and that's so unfortunate. But when he was a person who spoke responsibility, you're guilty. You've been found guilty in the court of law, even though the verdict was flawed, the way it was obtained was flawed. But don't come out and be like that. I mean, have some kind of
remorse.
Yes, have some remorse and show that you're a person of care. You care. Show some humility is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Right.
So okay, so we're down to the last two news events, and I had to cut them short when we were pulling them together. The 12th item was that on the 15th of August, as I was trying to recover from that illness, the United States officially pulled out of Afghanistan. And I know that brought a lot of feelings. It took me back to when we pulled out of Vietnam. President Nixon called it peace with honor. And of course, Gary and Janis, that had special significance for me because this boy was just supposed to go downtown and register the next week. And I knew friends, I lost friends in Vietnam. So that had a special significance for me. But we pulled out of Afghanistan after 20 years. Now, let me say this before we start the discussion. This was one of President Biden's campaign promises. And I'll just throw this out. There's never an easy way to pull out of an occupation that you have been in for 20 years. And I'll leave it there. Go ahead, guys.
Well, I think that we should have pulled out of there much long ago. We never should have been there 20 years. The United States was there on a mission to get to assassinate who we believe was the purveyor of 9/11 attacks on the United States. However, what really was going on is white male contractors continuously getting funding from the United States for all of their contracts with the United States government over there in Afghanistan. And it was about nation building, which they say it wasn't about nation building, but it really was. And the United States has to understand that not every other country and culture believes in our brand of democracy. And that is part of the problem. And so there was no need for us to be in Afghanistan as long as we were. The mission was done while President Obama was in office. We assassinated Osama bin Laden, and we should have been gone. The amount of money, $2 trillion, $2 trillion spent over the course of 20 years was ludicrous. We were never going to get what the United States wanted, which was to build a democratic state there. Not going to happen. Different culture, different religious dictates. For the United States and many people to cry about, but the women are going to go back to having to cover up and wear the hijab, and they won't have the opportunities and the education. Well, guess what? The United States only provided women, and that's white women, the ability to vote just 100 years ago. And Dozell, our grandparents were in their 60s My parents were in their 30s in 1965 when the United States allowed, through voting rights, the ability to vote. So don't tell me that we were over there and we're so sorrowful that the women of Afghanistan are going to go backwards in time. You know, I'm a Black woman in the United States and I'm not really free. So right now I got to deal with that. And once again, reparations is top of mind for me before I can think about any other country's issues who have a completely different cultural and religious dictate that is infused in their politics, and for their training for 20 years for a military to topple in 11 days. We weren't over there doing what we were supposed to be doing. And what did you see? Men trying to grab a hold of a plane. Oh my God. Once again, not caring about their wives and their children, caring about themselves. And I guess they thought they were going to fly in the skies by holding on to a plane. You know, the whole thing was ludicrous. The images looked bad, but as you said when you introduced this segment, Biden has said for many years we needed to be out of there, and it was never going to be pretty. You know, the media did a job on our collective psyche. Oh my God, it's such a horrendous sight. Oh, there was a baby pulled up over the fences. All of these images that made people's stomachs turn. Well, guess what? In our lifetimes, and definitely our parents' lifetimes, those type of images and worse. Black people hanging in trees, Black people still being drugged by the back of trucks in certain areas of this country, brutalized and murdered. So until the
Okay.
United States could deal with that, I have no appetite for Afghanistan,
Okay.
and the way that we pulled out.
Okay. Go ahead, Gary.
Basically, I don't know. It's I never served in the military. I didn't go to Nam. I wouldn't have come back if I did. Um, this 20 years. Why the 20 years? There's a right way and a wrong way to do everything, and I agree that there wasn't going to be any easy way, but there's the right way and there's really the wrong way, and to me this was the wrong way. I mean, from what I understand, we should have kept that base. I mean, it was right there by China. This idea of over the horizon surveillance and stuff like that, and hitting targets. The first target they hit with a drone was a guy trying to do some Christian work and some giving and stuff like that. His kids were killed, whatever. But I mean, it's just the fact that we left all that equipment there. This is the country that one of the things I love to support is tunnels to towers, and you see all the guys that come back with no legs, no arms, and stuff. And the Taliban was the ones that took the artillery shells and turned them into IEDs and blew up the cars and everything along the roadway and stuff, and maimed all of our officers and enlisted men and stuff. And I mean, I don't know why Biden didn't listen to his own people. I mean, his military staff. They said, let's do it a different way. They had time. For some reason, they wanted it done by the 20th anniversary of 9/11. But we lost. We gave more than what we got. Again, the people that we just took over. I mean, we left Americans behind. We left the people that were our translators, the people that helped us over there, the people that put their life on their line, and now are dying because we left them behind. And there's that old saying, "No man left behind," and we sure as heck did. There was a better way to do this. Again, there's nothing sterile about it, but this is war. But lo and behold, I wish there was somebody else in command. I think commander in chief should have had prior military. I mean, I know not every president is going to have prior military, but if you're the commander in chief, you either listen to him or you know a little bit more about it.
Yeah, but Gary, I don't think we can hold that as a criteria. The criteria that we talked about earlier, if you can be elected by the people, then the people have to have the confidence that that person is competent and capable enough to handle military or world affairs. And I just think that would have been a miss for anybody. If we go back to the Vietnam when we pull out, I still see the images of that helicopter in Hanoi flying off the building, and I just don't think it would have been
We didn't learn anything. We
heard
didn't
you
learn
say,
anything.
man. I don't think that would have been easy for anything. This is the last news item. Now, Janis has an item that I'm going to include with the sports items at the end. We're going to be out of here in the next 12, 13, 14, 15 minutes. So we got to make this brief. And I know, Jan, you have a definite feeling on this. The last news item occurred on November the 30th, and it was 4 students were killed in a Michigan high school. 4 students were killed in Michigan high school. Some say it was a suburb of Detroit. I heard it was 30 miles out of Detroit. Janis is sitting right there in the D. She knows about it. Could you contain that to 2 minutes, Janis? And I know you have a definite opinion about that.
Well, Oxford, Michigan is a suburb of Detroit, over 50 miles away from the city of Detroit. So, of course, they had to bring Detroit into it, but we had nothing to do with that. But Detroit police officers are the ones that actually caught the parents when they were fleeing. The United States loves its guns. The United States was founded on violence. And so, really, as Brother Malcolm X said, the chickens have come home to roost. The face of terror in the United States is white males. That is what the Department of Justice has stated. That is what the FBI has stated, and that is what Homeland Security has stated. If the 15-year-old had been a black male, this would have been treated differently. So, Michigan has an open carry provision. Michigan does not have safe storage provision. So hopefully out of this tragedy will come safe storage. It only makes sense that if you have minors in your home, you should be required to lock up your guns. The parents in this case were irresponsible all the way around. They had to know that their son had some mental deficiencies, and they didn't deal with it. They spurred him on. They bought him a gun. He fully knew that that was his gun. He was on social media saying, look at this beauty I have, my gun. The mother was on social media saying, oh, we just bought our son a gun. It's unfortunate. It's really sad that those students and teachers and other staff were injured and killed. But until the United States really comes to a reckoning with its own violence and its love of guns, we're going to continue to see this. And let me just say that I grew up in the city of Detroit. I was educated in the Detroit public school system. In the 1970s, we had to wear ID badges to get into school, and we had to go through magnetometers, x-rays. When I was in middle school, we didn't have just security guards, rent-a-cops. We had Detroit police in our schools, and never has there been a mass shooting in the Detroit city public schools. So, that happened in the suburb. It always happens in the suburb. And what I heard immediately after the unfortunate shooting is that the public officials in Oxford, Michigan, could not believe that some people wanted x-ray machines, magnetometers, to be in their schools. Well, guess what? If you had it, you would have known that the boy had a gun on him. And further, to not have put that child out of school when the teachers saw what was concerning to them, these images and pictures that this child was drawing of guns and saying, the world is dead. I see, blood everywhere. They should have put the boy out. He should have gone into Child Protective Services since the parents did not want to take him home. At the root of this is white privilege. Because if this had been a black child, he would have been made to go home. He would have been made to have psychological assessments much earlier. But these parents, we're not taking him home. And look at what happened. They knew that child had issues, and they did nothing.
Let me break in for a quick second. I need to ask you this, Jim. Wow, what is that? I don't know who that is. Janis, let me ask you this. You said, or let me assert this to your comments. You said that until we get over our affection and affinity for guns, do you really think that's going to happen in this country?
Well, we're going to still have babies like we had in up in the Northeast where the kindergartners, first graders were shot and killed by a young white male who was mentally disturbed, and everyone knew about it. We're going to continue to have Columbines. This is the 20th anniversary of Columbine. We're going to continue to have these type of situations occur if we don't do something about gun reform. You know, the NRA has wrapped up tight the Congress so that they're afraid to have any gun reform. Michigan is an open carry state, but I bet you if I, which I fantasize about doing it, walk around like Black Panthers did with munitions wrapped around my body and a long gun, there would be swifter action if Black people were doing that. You know, just like the little coup that tried to um, kidnap our governor and murder her. You know, the United States is a violent country. I've lived outside of it. Never did I experience what I see, you know, happening here in the United States. And once again, terrors, the greatest terrorist threat in the United States, as stated by our FBI, our Homeland Security, and our Department of Justice, is white males. It continues to happen, and it's going to continue to happen until we deal with gun reform and safer usage of our guns. I'm not saying
Gary,
get rid of them. I believe in the Second Amendment, but look at what's happening. Children are dying. People are dying.
Gary, what's your feeling on that, Gary? On that
Again,
Michigan school shooting?
you know, we've had this ever since Columbine, probably even before that. You know, the police handle themselves different. Instead of waiting for the SWAT team or specialized team to go in, we're taught, the last thing I was taught before I retired was to go in with a team, do with what you got, go in, clear the rooms, each one and stuff. And it's horrible. I mean, you know, yeah, true. The parents, I blame the parents. I mean, you know, it all starts in the home. I mean, who knows better about the kid than the parents? And from what I understand, the kids and the parents were in the principal's office just before this. And, you know, again, there was that opportunity to, hey, you're leaving school today and stuff. Take your backpack and go home. And he went to the bathroom or something, pulled the gun out of the backpack, you know, and started shooting. But at least they were trained in that school, from what I understand, that, you know, hi, this is the police department, open up the classroom. And they realized, you know, I'm not opening that door because we were trained not to open up that door. But like you were saying, metal detectors, I mean, that'd be a fantastic thing. I mean, lo and behold, we need something like that. I mean, the old saying, if you see something, say something. I mean, we had an incident in Daytona Beach at Embry-Riddle that could have been a mass murder, active shooter, this person on campus. Lo and behold, he was saying things and having things again on Facebook or wherever else. And I mean, somebody called the Daytona Beach Police Department. They went to his house and they saw all the information that they needed to see, and they arrested the guy prior to anybody dying. And I mean, that's something we have to do. I mean, we all need to be trained. We have to understand that this is a different world. People apparently, I'm not talking about civilized, but I mean, people let their emotions overrun themselves, and and guns are available, and they're always going to be available. I mean, we have gun laws. Chicago, the one city that has the most gun laws that there is, and they have the most number of shootings. Los Angeles, I mean, sections of New York, Queens. I wouldn't want to go back there to save my life. But thank God we're in Florida. I mean, you know, Florida's got a good state going. And again, you know, denial, and not my child. You just used to be not NIMBY, not my backyard with homeless shelters and stuff. But, you know, lo and behold, and not my child, he wouldn't do it. But lo and behold, you give a kid a gun, or they have access to a gun, and all this stuff on Facebook, or, you know, it was an accident waiting to happen.
A couple things I want to say, and Gary, I want to get your opinion on these. I can still remember I was still teaching school here in Broward County Schools, and when the Parkland shoot took place up at Stroman Douglas, where I had just shaken one of the victims' hands 3 months earlier. That was where we finished our football season, and the big coach, we shook hands, and heard the police sirens going out, rushing up there that day, and getting all the text that was going on as I was standing at the bus, seeing my kids get on the school buses that day. So you'll never forget that.
No.
But I wanted to ask you, Janis made a statement. Well, let me say it like this, and we're both former law enforcement. The boy that did the mother the killing in Charleston, South Carolina, they arrested him. The policeman bought him a Big Mac. When the kid was arrested at Parkland, they picked him up. I didn't even see guns put to his head. They quietly, and that's the professional thing to do. I respect that. But do you think black males would have survived, would have been apprehended like that?
Again, I really couldn't say. I mean, I think every school should have school resource officers present. I think they should have a program, a policy of what to do. But the students know who the students are who have issues. I was talking to a classmate friend of mine, Seabreeze 69, way back when, and he says, Gary, we don't know what went in the homes. I mean, we saw the kids. Some of them were trouble kids, and some of them, you don't know what goes on in the homes. And lo and behold, the parents know what goes on in the homes, and hopefully the teachers. I mean, counselors in elementary school. I never thought we needed counselors in elementary school, but lo and behold, we do. There's so many issues right now that need to come forward before anybody gets hurt.
A black child similarly situated would have been shot when they walked out of that building. We all know it. It's evident. So again, it's unfortunate that those children and school personnel were shot, and some of the personnel were injured. Children were shot and killed. But this 15-year-old walked out of the building, handed his gun off to the police, and was apprehended with kid gloves. If that had been one of my nephews, a brown child, a black child, a Samoan child, a Filipino child, which I have in my family, that child would have been dead. It's evident. Dozell, you mentioned the apprehensions of a variety of white males who have gone ballistic in schools, and they're treated with kid gloves. Mother Emanuel in South Carolina, we knew before he exited that building that he had killed 9 people, that in his sadistic, twisted mind went and prayed with and then killed them. He was apprehended, and you said, treated to Burger King. He said he was hungry. The officers got him something to eat. That is America.
Okay, before we transition, and we got 15 minutes is dwindling down to 4 minutes. So I'm gonna cut through sports and entertainment real quick. I have a way to do that. But Griff had a question for you before we switch over. Gary, he asked, where are you on reprobations?
Where am I on reprobation?
Yes.
Giving money back. Again, if I'm not black. That's all I can tell you. I mean, it's. I was never alive during Jim Crow, and I don't think any of you were either. It's if we're going to start giving money away, I think it's horrible if that was something denied the slaves at that time. 40 acres and a mule. I mean, that's something I can't do a thing about. But I mean, if we're talking about American Native Indians, I mean, we put them on reservations. The tier of trails, the Trail of Tears. I mean, those people we'd have to refund as well. But again, whatever the Congress, whatever the government says, that's fine and dandy. I mean, right now we are so far in the hole, and all this administration wants to do is to spend more money. Again, I don't know when we're going to get out of the hole. And Rome wasn't built in a day, but lo and behold, they went down the drain as well with debt, and they allowed the barbarians to come in. So we'll see.
It's not giving money back. There was no money, no compensation ever given to my relatives, to Dozell's relatives, any black person who is descended of an enslaved person. There was no compensation. It was wage theft. Let's get that straight. So it's not about giving money back. It's doing what is right. Black people were not expected to survive. Let's be clear about that. After they were brutally brought here, enslaved, enchained, degradation over degradation, They were not expected to survive. General Sherman came up with the concept of 40 acres and a mule to ease those formerly enslaved people into society. If they had a mule and they had land, they could work the land and become self-sufficient. But then that was snatched away.
Yeah.
So it's not giving money back. My ancestors never received any compensation, and you are where you are financially stable because of the wage theft upon my ancestors. That's a transfer of wealth to white Americans, and that's what white America has to understand and acknowledge. It was wage theft. Wage theft now. Would you have worked up until your retirement within the law enforcement echelons that you were with if you had not been compensated? I don't think you would have. You would have gone on to get a different job. African Americans who were enslaved were not given that opportunity. And when they tried to escape and when they tried to get free, even through the courts, they were denied typically. So it's not giving money back. Black Americans helped to build this country. Cotton was king. That's a whole dialogue that I hope you will have.
Yes, I was just about to say,
because white Americans need to understand, and those people who immigrate here need to understand who actually built this country and why white people have a better time than Black people, because there was wage theft. Our parents were not compensated for building the White House, for building the Capitol, U.S. Capitol. That was wage theft, and we need to atone for that. And that's what reparations is. And my parents, my grandparents, and foreparents put tax dollars into the U.S. coffers, but couldn't get it out because laws were codified stating that we were not even human.
Okay, so I have the next. I got the next topic. We got that topic for further on. Sorry to cut you off, Jan, but we're up against a hard time cap. Okay, so let's transition to sports, and for the conservation of time, I'm gonna do a quarter of the year at a time. And if you want to comment, let me know. If not, I'll keep pressing on. Okay, the first quarter of the year. These are the highlights very quickly. Alabama came down here in what we know as South Floridians know as Dolphin Stadium, Joe Robbie, and defeated, I think it's Hard Rock Stadium now, defeated Ohio State Buckeyes. Let's move past that. I don't want to talk about Alabama. I'm anti-Alabama. I'm a Florida Gator. Go Gators. All right. And then, speaking of Florida, Tom Brady became the part of the first team to ever win, to ever host a Super Bowl in 55 years, and I've been around the seat and remember every last one of them. The first team to bring the Super Bowl to their home stadium, and they defeated the beloved Kansas City Chiefs over in the Buccaneers Stadium, Raymond James Stadium. They defeated them in the Super Bowl on January the 7th, and Baylor won the NCAA men's basketball championship. Okay, I'm about to transition. Griff, you're gonna like this one. On April the 5th, on April the 11th, the Masters, they had basically two, so it was pushed back. The Masters Championship was won by its first Japanese person, Hideki Matsuyama, won it, the Masters tournament, on the 11th of April. Man, that was great for all of sports. Many people said there were tears in their eyes when they watched that. Now, Gary, you told me you're not really big on sports, but that's bringing a little history into sports. Griff, I know you remember that day, and I know you remember that too. Burrell, you telling me about Hard Rock Stadium? I know that's Hard Rock Stadium. I still go back to Joe Robbie or Dolphin Stadium, but it's Hard Rock Stadium. Okay. The fifth sports item. Well, okay, this is entertainment. It's the only entertainment in this list of 11. No Man Land won the Academy Award. Remember, all the awards were virtual last year. Even the BET, all of the music awards, they were all virtual. No Man Land won the Academy Award on last year. Tampa Bay, again, they won the NHL title on the 7th of June, the NHL title. And on July the 20th, Let me see if I can say it right. Uh, Mr. No, I'm not going to even try to say it. I'll say like this: the Milwaukee Bucks, for the first time in 50 years since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played for them as Lou Alcindor, won the NBA title, and it was a title that was not in the bubble last year, this year. So they won that title in June, on June the 20th. On the 8th of August, the Tokyo Olympics began, and I mean they ended on the 8th of August. We got the Olympics in. Who doesn't remember Kevin Durant almost single-handedly bringing the gold medal back for the American basketball team? That was a highlight that they could even get the Olympics off with COVID in such an upbringing. Candace Parker transfers away, or she uses free agency. She leaves the Los Angeles Sparks of the WNBA, and she goes to transfers to the Chicago Sky and leads them to their very first WNBA title. That was on the 14th of October. Then, and I meant to do some research on this, in the year that Hank Aaron died, and you saw on the slide, he died in early August. I got a chance to be the clubhouse boy for Hank Aaron a couple of times. Hank Aaron, the year that he dies, the Atlanta Braves won the World Series. The Atlanta Braves, I was a Brave fan before I became a Marlin fan. The Atlanta Braves won the World Series. And there was a lot of things about the number 44. It was 44 days after the All-Star game, and it was 44 something and 44 something else. I apologize for not doing that research, but it was only ironic, we could say providential, that the year that Hank Aaron transitioned, almost at 90 years old, the Atlanta Braves won the World Series. That was your year in sports. Jan had a concern, and we want to bring that up before we sign off. She mentioned, and I think this is something that we really need to look at. She talked about athletes and mental health, Gary, and Naomi Osaka, and the culture of sexual assault in college campuses. I just watched an ex-NFL star who is camped out, and Jan brought this to my attention earlier, but I actually saw him on Real Sports. I cannot think of his name. He's camping out as we speak, and thankfully the wind is a little bit mild up there. He's camping out on the front yard of the chancellor, or the president of Jan's alma mater, the University of Michigan, where he's protesting men having been brutally sexualized, or have been taken advantage of, sexually abused by a teen doctor for so many years. And there's a white brother who's also a part of that protest. And so Jan brought up, and I think this bears Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka were named Sports Persons of the Year, dealing with the mental health issues and the abuse issues in sports. And could we just take 3 minutes before we sign off and talk about that? Jan, please, 1 minute, and then Gary, close us out on that subject.
All right.
Well, Bo Schembechler was known as a god in Michigan in sports and athletics for the University of Michigan football team. And it is now being said that Bo knew, and I'm sure he did, that's the culture of sexual violence on campuses, which typically happens to women. University of Michigan, we had Dr. Anderson for 35 years, 1968 until 2005, when he retired, sexually molesting and assaulting male athletes. And so that's kind of raising the attention, but it needs to be dealt with, because people always know when this is happening. When there's incest in the home, or when there's sexual assault on campuses, people always know. And so I'm very glad that we were able to get this narrative out there and get universities to be talking about it. And I'm so proud of Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka, who brought mental health awareness and stood back in their greatness to tend to their mental health. I mean, it's a huge thing to even be able to compete on that level, but to understand yourself and your own internal barometer, that you need to step back for your own mental health, I think is empowering for a lot of people. So in my view, Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka were the sports persons of the year for bringing mental health into the national narrative.
The other thing you didn't mention the game. Michigan beats Ohio. Go Wolverines.
Yes, go blue. Yes, we did beat Ohio State, and we are coming to your great state in 4 days, and we will walk away pearly victorious, beating Georgia in the Orange Bowl.
Great.
I think we may have lost our host for a second.
Uh-oh.
Okay, here he comes back.
I'm back. I am back. Okay, we are really getting ready to sign. I want to thank my guests tonight, the dialogue, our year in review. You guys have made this all possible. 10,000 thank yous. We went a little long tonight, had a casualty along the way here, but thank you all for being with us. Gary, thank you for joining in. You're fresh and you're so honest. Your perspective is so appreciated. And Jan, you see all the comments we get about your intellect, your experience. Your brother even told me one night, man, you got to get Janis on the show. I said, that's already done, Pete. We got that done. But thank you all for making this a great show tonight. And to our viewers, I know it's gone a long time. Apologize for the outburst. But thank you all so much for making this the great show that it is. It's our end of year show. Thank you so much. We love and appreciate you, and may you have a very blessed 2021.
Same here.
Thank you all again. All right. As I see it, there were a lot of news events that occurred in this year. They were so different from what we experienced the year before, thank God. And we just want to give God glory. I know this is not a church service, but we're just so grateful that things are turning around. The rate of the virus that's still kicking in and still doing its damage is not to the point that it was. We're not suffering as we were, and we are just so grateful. To all of our viewers, we're so grateful to you, Pastor Burrell, Pastor Griff, all of you all. Thank you so much. Fern, we love and appreciate you. As I see it, we're grateful that as we stand on the verge, just days away from 2022, that optimism. Listen, I just want to advise everybody like this. Look at the glass as half full as opposed to being half empty. What are you saying, Dozie? I'm saying be optimistic as opposed to pessimistic. That positive outlook always wins. We're grateful as we come to the end of this year. We look forward to 2022, and we're looking for you to join us right here on Dialogue with Dozie every Monday night. Hopefully, Kiwi will be back with us on next Monday night. Want to tell you about some of the upcoming dialogues before we sign off. On next week, we're going to do projections into 2021, 2022. We're going to have a pastor that's going to come in, my father in the ministry, hopefully, and talk about where we're coming to in 2022. And we're going to have some life coaches on. We're going to talk about goal setting, projecting into making it a successful year. And you know how you really make it a successful year? When you make it work with all around you is going awry, and you make it work for you. That means that you have stepped up. Life coach Curtis Dean will just say that you have stepped up and made the most out of nothing. Dialogue with Dozie, we are so grateful that you're with us. So grateful that you lasted with us tonight. This was the 2021 Year in Review Show. Let's start next week, beginning 2022. God bless you. The Dialogue wishes everybody a most happy and blessed New Year. We love you. Thank you for being a part of our family. We look for you next Monday night. Dialogue with Dozie. Happy New Year, everybody.